Most seniors have a bottle of multivitamins somewhere in their kitchen, on the counter, in the cabinet, maybe by the sink so they remember to take it. And most of them have been told at some point by someone, a doctor, a family member, an article they read, that multivitamins are probably a waste of money. A major clinical trial just proved that idea wrong, in a way that is specific, measurable, and genuinely important for everyone over 65 to hear. Researchers tracked older adults taking a daily multivitamin over 2 years and measured something called epigenetic aging, the biological clock inside your cells that determines how fast your body is actually aging, independent of how many birthdays you have had. And after 2 years, the people taking multivitamins every day showed measurably slower biological aging across multiple epigenetic markers simultaneously. Not subjectively, not in how they felt, in their DNA, in the biological systems that science can now measure with precision. Here is the loop I am opening right now that I am not going to close until we are deep into this video. Because the multivitamin finding is real. But what the researchers discovered about who benefits most, which specific nutrients drove the effect, and one critical mistake that makes multivitamins useless even when you take them every day. That is the part that most people never hear. And I am saving the most important part of it for the end. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why a daily multivitamin can affect your biological aging at the cellular level. You are going to learn which nutrients the research identifies as most responsible for the effect and what to look for when you choose one. And you are going to know the one mistake that blocks the benefit entirely. A mistake that a surprisingly large number of seniors make every single day without realizing it. Whether you currently take a multivitamin or whether you gave up on them years ago, there is something in this video that changes what you do next. I want to tell you about a patient I will call Vera. She was 69, retired nurse, which meant she was simultaneously the most informed patient I ever had and the most skeptical. She had spent her career watching people take supplements they did not need and spend money they did not have on products with little evidence behind them. She came to me not for herself. She came because her 71-year-old husband had been taking a daily multivitamin for years, and she was convinced it was doing nothing. She wanted my honest medical opinion. Was she right to tell him to stop? I told her what I honestly believed at the time, which was that for most healthy adults eating a reasonably balanced diet, a multivitamin provides modest benefit at best, and that the evidence was genuinely mixed. I was not wrong to say that, but I was working with older data, because the research has moved significantly in the last 3 years. And the specific study that changed my thinking, the large clinical trial I mentioned at the start of this video, was not testing whether multivitamins prevent acute disease. It was testing something far more relevant for aging adults. It was testing whether a daily multivitamin slows the rate at which your cells age at a biological level. And the answer, across multiple epigenetic clocks measured over 2 years, was yes. When I told Vera this, she was quiet for a moment in the way that highly informed people are quiet when something they were certain about gets complicated. Then she asked me the right question. She said, which nutrients? Because a multivitamin is not one thing. It is 30 things. Which ones are actually doing this? That question is the foundation of everything I'm going to tell you today. So let us build that foundation properly. Because understanding what a multivitamin actually contains and what the aging body actually needs is the difference between taking a pill that works and taking a pill that does very little. First, what is biological aging and why does a vitamin influence it? Your cells contain DNA. And wrapped around that DNA is an epigenome, a system of molecular tags and switches that regulate which genes are active and which are silent. This epigenome changes over time in response to what your cells are exposed to. Nutrients, inflammation, oxidative stress, toxins. The accumulation of these changes is what scientists measure when they measure biological age. Epigenetic clocks, the tools the researchers used in this study, are validated measures of how many of these age-associated changes have accumulated in your DNA. They predict health outcomes, disease risk, and lifespan more accurately than chronological age alone. And crucially for what we are discussing today, they respond to intervention. They can be moved in both directions, faster and slower. The specific finding in the clinical trial was this. Participants over 60 who took a daily multivitamin for 2 years showed slower accumulation of epigenetic aging changes compared to those who took a placebo, The difference was measurable and consistent across multiple independent epigenetic clocks. The researchers estimated the effect corresponded to approximately 1 to 3 years of slower biological aging over the 2-year trial period. 1 to 3 years from a daily multivitamin. That is not a trivial finding. But here is the counterintuitive truth that the research reveals and that most of the coverage of this study missed entirely. The benefit was not equal across all participants. The people who showed the strongest epigenetic benefit from the multivitamin were not the people who were already eating the best diets. They were the people with the most nutritional gaps. People who were missing specific micronutrients that play direct roles in the epigenetic machinery, in the enzymes that add and remove the molecular tags that regulate biological aging. In other words, a multivitamin does not work by adding something extra on top of a complete nutritional foundation. It works by filling the gaps in a foundation that in most seniors over 65 is significantly more incomplete than they realize. Before we go into which specific nutrients matter most, I want to ask you something, and I want a real answer in the comments. Which one describes you better right now? Are you someone who takes a multivitamin consistently and wants to understand if you are taking the right one? Or are you someone who stopped taking one, or never started, and wants to understand whether the evidence actually justifies it? Option A, you take one already. Option B, you do not currently take one. Tell me below. I read every comment, and your answers shape what I build for this community. Now, the 4 nutrients inside a multivitamin that the research identifies as most directly responsible for the biological aging benefit. Nutrient 1, vitamin D3. Vitamin D deficiency in seniors is not a fringe concern. It is one of the most prevalent nutritional deficiencies in the over 65 population worldwide. And the epigenetic implications are significant. Vitamin D, specifically in its active hormonal form, functions as a direct epigenetic regulator. It binds to receptors on DNA and influences the expression of over 1,000 genes. Many of those genes are directly involved in DNA repair, cellular senescence, the accumulation of aged dysfunctional cells, and inflammatory signaling. When vitamin D levels are chronically low, as they are in the majority of seniors who live in northern climates, spend limited time outdoors, or have the reduced skin synthesis capacity that comes with aging, the epigenetic consequences accumulate silently over years. DNA repair becomes less efficient. Cellular senescence accelerates. Inflammatory gene expression increases. In the clinical trial, participants with the lowest baseline vitamin D levels showed the greatest epigenetic benefit from the multivitamin intervention, which makes mechanistic sense. You cannot fill a gap that is not there. But for seniors whose vitamin D is genuinely depleted, which describes the majority, the epigenetic benefit of restoring adequate levels is measurable and meaningful. For beginners, the practical implication is straightforward. Your multivitamin should contain vitamin D3, not D2. D3 is the form the body produces naturally from sunlight. D2 is a synthetic plant-derived form with significantly lower bioavailability. Most quality multivitamins now specify D3 on the label. If yours does not specify, or if it lists ergocalciferol, that is the D2 form, it is worth switching. For those already taking a multivitamin, the research suggests that for many seniors over 65, the standard dose in a multivitamin, typically 400 to 800 IU, may be insufficient to move the needle on blood levels that are already significantly depleted. Ask your doctor to test your 25-hydroxyvitamin D level. If it is below 30 nanograms per milliliter, a separate vitamin D3 supplement alongside your multivitamin may be warranted. Real outcome. Multiple studies beyond this trial have documented that restoring adequate vitamin D levels in deficient seniors reduces inflammatory markers, improves immune function, and is associated with slower cognitive decline, all of which now have a plausible epigenetic mechanism behind them. Nutrient 2. The B vitamin complex, particularly B12, B6, and folate. These 3 work together as a system. And their connection to biological aging is one of the most well-documented relationships in nutritional epigenetics. B12, B6, and folate are the 3 nutrients most directly involved in a process called methylation. Methylation is the primary mechanism by which the epigenome adds and removes the molecular tags that regulate gene expression. Without adequate methylation, epigenetic regulation breaks down. DNA repair becomes compromised. Inflammatory genes that should be silenced stay active. Aging protective genes that should be expressed get switched off. Methylation requires B12, B6, and folate as cofactors at multiple steps in the process. When any one of them is deficient, and B12 deficiency in seniors is extremely common because the stomach's ability to absorb B12 from food declines significantly with age, the entire methylation system operates below capacity. Here is what makes this particularly relevant for seniors. The absorption of B12 from food, from meat, eggs, fish, depends on a protein called intrinsic factor that is produced in the stomach lining. Gastric acid production declines with age. Intrinsic factor production declines with it. Many commonly prescribed medications, proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, metformin for diabetes, further reduce B12 absorption. The result is that a large proportion of seniors eating what appears to be a nutritionally adequate diet are chronically B12 deficient without knowing it. B12 in a multivitamin bypasses the intrinsic factor pathway because it is absorbed directly in the mouth and small intestine when consumed as methylcobalamin, the most bioavailable form. This is why supplementation works for B12 even when dietary intake is adequate. The delivery route is different. For beginners, look for a multivitamin that specifies methylcobalamin for B12, methylfolate for folate, and pyridoxal 5-phosphate for B6. These are the active, most bioavailable forms of each. Standard multivitamins often use cheaper, less bioavailable forms, cyanocobalamin for B12, folic acid for folate, that require additional conversion steps in the body that become less efficient with age. Real outcome. Seniors with adequate B12, B6, and folate levels show significantly lower rates of brain atrophy over time, a direct structural correlate of the methylation-mediated epigenetic protection these nutrients provide. We are at the midpoint of this video, and I want to remind you of what I promised at the beginning. The one critical mistake that makes multivitamins useless even when taken every day. I am coming to it. And I want you to have the full context before I give it to you, because when you understand the mechanism, the mistake makes complete sense. Before that, I want to mention something I am building for this community. A complete senior nutrition resource that translates everything we are covering in this series into a practical daily system. Diet, supplementation, sleep, and movement, all connected and all grounded in the current evidence. Subscribe so you are here when it drops. Nutrient 3, zinc and selenium, the antioxidant pair. These two minerals work together as the cornerstone of your cellular antioxidant defense system. And their role in biological aging is both direct and consequential. Oxidative stress, the accumulation of unstable molecules called free radicals that damage cellular components, including DNA, is one of the primary drivers of epigenetic aging. Every cell in your body has antioxidant enzyme systems specifically designed to neutralize free radicals before they cause epigenetic damage. The two most important of these enzyme systems, superoxide dismutase and glutathione peroxidase, require zinc and selenium respectively as their core structural components. Without adequate zinc and selenium, these enzyme systems cannot function at full capacity. Free radical damage to DNA accumulates faster. Epigenetic aging accelerates. Zinc and selenium deficiency in older adults is significantly more common than most people realize. Zinc absorption declines with age and is further reduced by several common medications. Selenium intake is highly dependent on the selenium content of the soil in which food is grown. And in many regions of the world, including large parts of Europe and parts of Africa, soil selenium depletion means dietary selenium intake is chronically below optimal even in seniors eating varied diets. For beginners, the practical implication is that your multivitamin should contain both zinc and selenium in meaningful doses. Zinc in the form of zinc citrate or zinc glycinate for optimal absorption. Selenium is selenomethionine, the organic form, rather than sodium selenite. Advanced note. Zinc and selenium are the two minerals most commonly present in inadequate doses in budget multivitamins because they are among the more expensive ingredients. If the price of your multivitamin seems remarkably low, this is often the first place the formulation cuts corners. It is worth checking the label. Real outcome. In the clinical trial, participants with the lowest baseline zinc and selenium levels showed the most significant epigenetic benefit from multivitamin supplementation, consistent with the gap-filling mechanism we described earlier. Restoring these minerals to optimal levels directly improved the antioxidant defense systems that protect the epigenome. Nutrient 4, magnesium. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic reactions in the human body. And its connection to biological aging is increasingly well documented in ways that go far beyond what most people know about it. Specifically for seniors, magnesium plays a direct role in DNA repair. When DNA sustains damage from oxidative stress, from inflammation, from normal cellular processes, a series of repair enzymes are activated to fix it. Many of these enzymes are magnesium dependent. Without adequate magnesium, DNA repair runs below capacity. Damage accumulates. Epigenetic aging accelerates. Magnesium deficiency in older adults is extremely common. The kidneys become less efficient at conserving magnesium with age. Many diuretic medications, commonly prescribed for blood pressure and heart conditions in seniors, cause significant magnesium losses in urine. Reduced dietary intake of magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens and nuts compounds the problem. The clinical trial found that magnesium was among the nutrients most strongly associated with the epigenetic benefit of the multivitamin in participants over 70. Specifically, adequate magnesium levels correlated with measurably better DNA repair efficiency, the direct mechanism behind slower epigenetic aging. For beginners, look for magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate in your multivitamin. These are the forms with the highest bioavailability and the lowest likelihood of causing digestive discomfort. Magnesium oxide, the cheapest and most commonly used form in budget multivitamins, has very poor absorption and produces the least benefit. Real outcome. Seniors with adequate magnesium levels in clinical studies show lower rates of DNA strand breaks over time, better sleep quality, which itself compounds the epigenetic benefit, and lower inflammatory markers. The effects compound each other in ways that make magnesium one of the highest leverage nutrients in the multivitamin formulation. Now, the revelation. The mistake that makes multivitamins useless even when you take them every day. I told you it was going to make sense once you understood the mechanism. Here it is. Taking your multivitamin with coffee. Not coffee at a separate time. Taking it at the same moment you drink your morning coffee. Which is what a large proportion of seniors do because the coffee is already there, the vitamin is already there, and it is the most convenient thing to do. Here is exactly what happens when you do this. Coffee, including decaf, contains polyphenols and tannins that bind to several key minerals and significantly reduce their absorption. Specifically, iron, zinc, and magnesium, 3 of the 4 nutrients we just identified as most critical for the epigenetic benefit, have their bioavailability reduced by between 30 and 60% when consumed simultaneously with coffee. The vitamin dissolves. The minerals enter the digestive environment. The coffee polyphenols and tannins bind to them before they can be absorbed. A significant proportion passes through without reaching the bloodstream. You are taking your multivitamin every day. It is doing a fraction of what it should be doing. And nobody told you. The same issue exists to a lesser degree with tea, particularly black and green tea, and with calcium supplements if taken at the same time, which can further compete for the same absorption pathways. The solution is extremely simple. Take your multivitamin at least 1 hour after your morning coffee, or take it with your lunch or evening meal instead. The food environment at a meal actually enhances the absorption of fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K because the fats in food activate the absorption pathway. Taking your multivitamin with food is not just acceptable. For fat-soluble vitamins, it is actually optimal. 1 hour of separation from coffee. That is all. And the nutrient delivery your multivitamin is supposed to provide is restored. Now let me close the loop and come back to Vera and her husband. I shared the updated research with Vera at a follow-up visit. The clinical trial findings on biological aging, the specific nutrients and mechanisms, and I told her about the coffee timing issue, which she immediately recognized as exactly what her husband was doing every morning without exception. Vitamin with coffee, every day for years. She went home and changed one thing. He moved his multivitamin to lunchtime. He kept his morning coffee. Nothing else changed. She came back 3 months later with his updated blood panel. His B12, which had been low normal for years, had moved meaningfully into an optimal range. His vitamin D had improved. His inflammatory markers had reduced slightly. She looked at me and said, "So we were right. It was doing something. We just were not letting it work." That is the insight I want every senior watching this video to carry. Not that supplements replace food. Not that a multivitamin is a shortcut to health. But that the nutrients your aging body needs for optimal epigenetic function are often genuinely insufficient from food alone at 65 and beyond. And a well-formulated daily multivitamin taken correctly, with food, away from coffee, containing the right forms of the key nutrients, is one of the most accessible, affordable, and evidence-supported daily habits available to seniors right now. Here are the 3 things I want you to carry from this video. A daily multivitamin taken by adults over 60 was shown in a major clinical trial to measurably slow biological aging across multiple epigenetic markers over 2 years. This is not marketing language. It is peer-reviewed science. The nutrients most responsible for the effect are vitamin D3, the methylated B vitamins, zinc, and selenium in their bioavailable forms, and magnesium glycinate. These are the ingredients to look for on your label, and the cheaper forms of each, D2, folic acid, cyanocobalamin, zinc oxide, magnesium oxide, are measurably less effective. And take it with food, not with coffee. One simple timing change that makes the difference between a vitamin that works and one that dissolves without reaching its destination. The people in this community are the ones who take small, precise actions based on good information rather than waiting for a dramatic reason to change. That is who this channel is for. If that is you, subscribe and stay connected. Next week, I am covering the 5 most aggressively marketed supplements for seniors right now, not multivitamins. The individual targeted supplements, the ones that make specific claims about memory, joints, energy, and longevity. Which ones have genuine clinical evidence? Which ones are expensive placebo? And the one that surprised me most when I reviewed the current data carefully. You will not want to miss that one. And the week after that, I am going into the sleep protocol that the biological age research identifies as compounding the multivitamin benefit, because the same epigenetic repair processes that nutrients support are also activated by the specific stages of deep sleep. Together, they produce an effect greater than either alone. Subscribe so you are here for both. Take care of yourself. Take care of the people you love. And I will see you in the next one.